Hi everyone, it's Alissa Magrum from Colin's Hope with all the Colin's Hope people. Back at you again, bringing you another water safety topic and some water safety tips that we feel might be helpful for you as parents and caregivers and even your kids so that you can be safer around water. We exist to raise people's water safety awareness to prevent children from drowning. And that means that anything that we see out there in the world that is maybe a water safety issue or a topic that you might not have even thought about, we'd love to bring it to you, educate you, give you resources around it, and then as always, we'd love your comments and suggestions or further questions. And so today the topic that we're going to talk about is dive masks. And they look like this, and they might look like this. And you might not think that they could be harmful. But I'm going to share a story with you about a little boy named Christopher, and we work with his family. I want to share his story because when I heard his story, I've been doing drowning prevention for over a decade, and when I learned of Christopher's story from his mom, Deborah, who is now a friend of mine, I learned his story about a year and a half ago, and maybe 2 years ago, and I had never heard anything like it, and I was very much moved by it and wanted to help his mom share his story so that she could help prevent drownings of other children. And so this is Christopher. Super cute. And Christopher, on his last day of kindergarten in 2003, he was 6.5 years old, and Christopher was swimming in the backyard pool. And when Christopher learned to swim, he did not like to put his face in the water. He wasn't comfortable putting his face in the water. So when he learned how to swim, his family got one of these dive masks, little swim dive masks, which we see them all the time. I actually got these two. I grabbed these two from my local swimming pool that were in the lost and found, and actually removed them from the pool. But Christopher's family got him a dive mask at the local pool supply store. It was in the toy section, and he learned how to swim. He was comfortable with the dive mask on his face, and as you can see, when it covers your nose and your eyes, he was comfortable putting his face in the water. And so he quickly learned how to swim with that dive mask on, and he could go underwater and was a great swimmer with the dive mask. What they didn't know was that those dive masks, these kind of dive masks are often made of cheap plastic and cheap materials, and they don't fit very well everyone's face. And so what happened with Christopher is on his last day of kindergarten, 2003, he was swimming in his backyard pool, and his dive mask filled up with water, so flooded with water. So this entire thing filled up with water, which meant that his nose and his eyes were in the water. And Christopher panicked because, again, he wasn't comfortable with his face in the water. And when he panicked, there were adults that were poolside, but it took a couple of minutes for them to realize that he was under the water. And tragically, Christopher was not able to be resuscitated, and he lost his life to a preventable fatal drowning in his backyard pool while wearing his dive mask. And I met his mom, as I mentioned, Deborah, a few years ago, and she shared his story. And I was very, very surprised because I didn't know. And so she has done some really great education around dive mask safety, and we're going to put the link in the comments. She did a really great article for Katie Couric on her website, and so we're going to put the link to that on there, as well as a really great video that she did with Dr. John Fleetemeyer, and it's endorsed by the National Drowning Prevention Alliance around dive mask safety. But I want to share a couple of things with you about that. So things that I learned from Deborah and from Christopher's story are that, most dive masks, unless you buy them at a dive shop, so like a scuba diving shop, most of the masks that you buy at a store, any store, are going to be made of cheap plastic. So cheap plastic, you can bend them, as you can see with this one, cheap plastic, right? Which means that they the cheap plastic means that they might not fit. It might be not a good fit. And it's important with a dive mask. If you went to a dive shop, they would have all these dive masks on the walls, and you could take them off the wall and you could try them on, and you could make sure the right one fit and make sure it was comfortable. And dive masks that you buy at a dive shop are made of silicone, which makes them fit better, and they're better materials. Most of these dive masks are made of like cheap plastic, and so it's really hard to get a mask that fits properly. And if you have a mask that doesn't fit properly, that's when it can flood with water. And one of the things that is important, if you do, well, probably the biggest tip about dive mask safety is don't ever let your children swim with a dive mask or even with goggles until they're comfortable swimming underwater without it. And you might have watched one of our earlier broadcasts, and we'll put the link to the broadcast that we did with Swim Kim Schultz with Face in Water. She's out of San Diego, and she talked a lot about how important it is to teach your child to be comfortable getting their face wet. That's the first sort of skill in learning to swim. And I have her Learn to Swim little skills booklet. And if you look at the very first skill, you can see this, but it's get your face wet. And that fits in with this, because if so imagine you're giving your child a bath when they're a baby. You want to be able to have them be comfortable getting water on their face, putting a cup of water on their face, not wiping their face. And that is one of the very first things that you can do, is make sure that your kids are comfortable getting their face wet, putting their face in the water, and then don't let them swim with goggles or a dive mask of any sort until they're comfortable, first of all, swimming underwater without it, because then So what happened with Christopher is his mask flooded with water, filled up, and he panicked. Well, if he had been comfortable getting his face wet, he may have not panicked, and the outcome might have been different. So that's really, really important. And then if you are going to choose a dive mask, and the video that we put in that talks about Christopher's story has some really great suggestions from how to choose a dive mask properly, and doing it at a dive shop where you can try them on and that sort of thing, and choosing a mask that's of really good quality materials. And another thing with dive masks that Christopher's mom, Deborah, found out is that there are usually no safety warnings on them. So if you went to any store right now and go into the section where you find the goggles and the pool toys and all of that stuff, you're most likely going to find something that looks like this. And go check it out. Go read the labels. See if there's a safety label or warning label. I know that that's something that Deborah really, really wants to do, is make sure that there's some safety warnings, that a mask is not a life-saving device and a mask can be dangerous. I, again, learned a lot from Christopher's story around that. And again, so let's review these things. So first of all, make sure that your kids are comfortable swimming underwater with their face in the water comfortably before you put goggles or any type of mask on them. If you are going to get a mask, go to a dive shop and make sure that you get one that's properly fitting. And the other thing is learning how to clear the water out of it. And that's something that Christopher didn't know how to do. They didn't know to teach him that skill. And I know I went through an intro to scuba class, and that's the first skill that you learn, is how to clear your mask of water if it fills up. And that's something that I don't think most parents or caregivers or anyone would even think about or even know. And again, we don't know what we don't know. I didn't know anything about this until I heard Christopher's story, his tragic story from his mom about dive masks. So that's something that we wanted to bring to you today. Again, this is Christopher right here. And I really love that we can share his story, and that his family was so courageous to share his story, because I think so many lives can be saved, and so many people can be educated with this one. So again, these kinds of masks are, made of not so great material. I, again, removed these from a local pool, lost and found, because of Christopher's story. I actually removed about 12 to 15 of them from the lost and found, just because they're not safe. And another thing I wanted to mention, which is not about dive mask safety, but another topic, and maybe we'll do a full broadcast on it later, but while we're here, might as well talk about it, is mermaid tails. I know a lot of people think those are great. I mean, I love mermaids. I have a mermaid tattoo, but those mermaid tails that you can buy at a same type of place where you buy those masks. The concept of putting a child or even an adult, a child's legs into some type of thing, so in this case a mermaid tail, which takes their legs, means they can't use their legs to kick, they can't use their legs to move unless it's in that mermaid thing, just really is a very big hazard. I mean, I know there's a lot of pools out there that don't allow them. Whenever I'm training pool and aquatic facilities, I ask them their policies around dive masks and mermaid tails. So be careful with those as well. I think maybe we'll do a broadcast like this or a session like this around mermaid tail safety, but ask the questions too at your own pool if you're able to get in the summer, but take special note. There's danger in those. I mean, I love mermaids. Again, they're fun, but the mermaid tail is really another dangerous thing. So I think with that, that's just a little quick one today. But again, sharing Christopher's story, talking about the importance of learning to put your face in the water and learning dive mask safety. The video that we put in that Deborah Tomlinson, Christopher's mom, recorded is really, really great. And it'll reinforce some of the topics that I just talked about, share Christopher's story, and really get you educated, because we're not saying, don't ever use these, but certainly do not use them until your child or even you is comfortable putting your face in the water, comfortable swimming underwater without them, and that you make sure if you are going to have a dive mask for snorkeling or something like that, that it fits properly and that it's made of quality materials. So with that, I'm going to say to all of you what Colin would say, and that's that we want you to have the best day ever. We want you to have the safest day ever around water. And this one's all about putting your face in the water and dive mask safety. And we honor Christopher today. And again, thank you, Deborah Tomlinson, for your courage and sharing Christopher's story to help save lives. So everyone, we will have the best day ever, and we'll see you soon.